So today's reading, as we've heard, comes from the book of Matthew and is part of Jesus' story and his travels as he goes from place to place. So far we have heard, as Angela's already alluded to, about his miracles, the feeding of 5,000, the walking on water, and then he goes and picks a fight with the Pharisees in the temple. A lot of that fight with the Pharisees of the temple is very much about not how we live, or what we say, and not even how we say it, but how we live it afterwards. He talks about how what we put in our bodies doesn't make us clean or unclean, but our faith does. He says in the beginning of chapter 15 that the people who honor there with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. Their worship is vain, their teachings merely human rules. And then he leaves and he goes to a new place where on the way he meets a Canaanite woman. Perhaps she meets him, depends on your viewpoint. And she cries out to God, "Have mercy on me. Have mercy on me, God. My daughter is demon possessed and suffering terribly." But Jesus' response is to ignore her and move on. So she urges the disciples, "Have mercy on me." And the disciples then turn to Jesus and ask him to send her away. This is where the conversation gets interesting for many people, because he turns around and says, "I was sent only for the lost sheep of Israel." He's not there for the ones who know him, but there for the ones who need him. But then he says something very controversial potentially. Is it not right to take the children's bread and toss it to the dogs? At this point, he is openly questioning her place in society and the kingdom, because he is insinuating that she is below the children, that she is one of the dogs under the table. I'm pretty sure in the current climate where we are, a lot of people would take offence at this. In my staff room in Harrogate, we often have conversations about social climbing, about social justice, about how everyone should be treated equally, and that there shouldn't be a pecking order. We've all seen on the news issues of surrounding Black Lives Matter, and this week with the A-level results, and whether it's okay to downgrade students from potentially poorer areas. I have my own views on that, but now is not the time nor the place. By all means, drop me an email. But we find ourselves hearing Jesus openly say that there are the people at the table and the dogs underneath. But instead of taking offense and instead of appealing to the disciples, she turns to Jesus and again says, "Yes, it is, for even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." This knowledge that all she needs is a crumb, that she's not worthy to sit at the table. All she wants is a chance to view it, a chance to be around it, is enough to show that actually she understands the kingdom of heaven. It makes me wonder, in our day-to-day ministry, in our day-to-day lives, how often do we tell people, good people, perfectly fine people, people we love, people we've known for years, that actually the only way into the kingdom is through Jesus? That actually for many of us, the challenge isn't being good, but being faithful. How many times do we find ourselves agreeing with people on theological points, despite the fact that actually it's not that straightforward? In another part of the Bible, I forget where, Jesus says that if you don't follow the way of heaven and you choose your family's way of life, if you choose your family over him, you have no seat with him. Jesus is often calling people out for the way they behave. He spent the previous bit of chapter 15 calling out the Pharisees, saying what you do is not faith in God. What you say is faith in God, and how you live it is faith in God. I often worry that in this modern world, in this modern way of living, the message is getting diluted. That actually we're being so careful to tread on eggshells and not call out sinners for what they are, to not reach our hand out and say what you are doing isn't right, for fear of offense, for fear of upsetting people. But sometimes it is necessary. A key part of fixing drug addicts and people with gambling problems or things like that is to show them the damage they are doing to themselves and the world around them. That is the only way that they can see how to beat the addiction, why to beat the addiction. And these days it's very easy not to do that, to let people live in their bubbles and say Jesus loves you. But that love needs to be reciprocated. And part of that might mean telling someone that they need to do better. And so as we go on out of lockdown, this week I'll be preparing the risk assessment for the URC in South Leeds. And part of that will be, we cannot do some stuff, it is not safe. And part of that is prayerfully considering the stuff we cannot do, because we don't want to miss missionary opportunities where people might come into our building but not experience God because of the rules we make. But as we go on, we take Jesus with us and we show him to the people. I find it curious that a lot of Christians, be it young, old, black, white, male, female, will often not talk about the benefits of Christ in their life. Will often not talk about the good things that come out of church. Often people ask me, well, what do you do with church all the time? And my first response is meetings. What I don't say is God is the constant in my life. God is the reason that I'm able to get up in the morning. God has blessed me in so many ways, and he can bless you too. We have to be cautious of the flip side of that, which is the questions as to why God isn't blessing others. But we cannot shy away from the truth. And the truth is, we aren't worthy of sitting at the table, that we have to rely on the crumbs dropped by the master, but that those crumbs are what will grant us a seat with Jesus in heaven. I still believe that the rest of Matthew, his walking on the water, his feeding of the 5,000, his anger at the established church, is as a result of John the Baptist's murder. That this is Jesus showing that he is the master of death, that he is the ruler of earth, that he is the seat into heaven, and that it doesn't matter what we do, it doesn't matter what we say, but if we have faith in Jesus, we have a place with him, and that place is brilliant, and that place is excellent, and that place is ours for the taking. But we mustn't be shy. We mustn't let people say things which aren't good enough. We mustn't let our church leaders lead us in a way which is perhaps too gentle, too soft. We mustn't shy away from the difficult conversations and the difficult questions and risk upsetting and insulting people. This is all caveated, of course, with the acknowledgement that insult is different to abuse. There's a thin line. And as long as we can justify potential insult, justify the fact that as Christians we believe there is something better than how other people live, we are strong with Jesus. So go, as we enter back into the world this week, this time next week I'll be in Cornwall in hopefully sunny St. Ives, and I will take Jesus with me on those steps, and I will know that through living with him I make myself better, and through glorifying him through my actions I will make him more relevant to the world around me. So go and take him with you and be strong and be aware that there are difficult issues, but with Jesus we can tackle them head on, and with Jesus we have a place in heaven.